Hello. In this video, I'm going to compile and run a up-to-date console version of Angband in Windows. Now, Angband last released an official console version in 2008, and they have not done so since then. You can play Angband in a console version, the latest console version, on the angband.live website, as long as you have internet. If your internet went out, however, you would not be able to play that console version, so you might want your own local version. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make here in this video. Now, this is based on the compiling instructions, the official compiling instructions from the manual. If you just Google Angband manual compiling, that should come right up. It's at angband.readthedocs.io. These steps won't make a Windows executable of Angband. You can't just run it by double-clicking it or something in Windows. It's a Cygwin-specific executable, which you will have to run through Cygwin, and by running Cygwin and then running the executable through Cygwin. So first we're going to be installing Cygwin. And by console version of Angband, I mean the ASCII version. And it doesn't have separate draggable windows like the fancier graphical versions. They're integrated into the single console terminal window. And this should take about 1.2 gigabytes of drive space as I do this. So there is a thread on the Angband development forum called Getting Angband from GitHub and Compiling It. That thread's from 2011, but it's probably more of a proper way to do this. For a development point of view, I just wanted a local console version I could run in a pinch if the internet went down or something. So first we need this Cygwin thing. It's a Linux-like environment that supplies Linux-like functionality on Windows. So you can get that from cygwin.com. I'm going to punch the direct download link for the setup utility into my browser. And it's a pretty small file, so I'm going to save that. That'll be in my downloads folder here in Windows. And just going to run it. It's a pretty handy utility, and if you plan on messing around with Cygwin, you will probably just want to keep it around because you can run it at any time while Cygwin isn't still installed. You can just run this thing to tweak your installation of Cygwin. And, I should note, you can use it to tweak your installation of Cygwin and add or remove functionality at any time. Now, I'm installing this to a directory that I made myself. It's not like a Windows directory like program files or anything like that. That might work, I don't know. I just wanted to make sure Windows wasn't going to say, oh, you need administrator privileges or something to mess with any files in this. So I just put it in a totally separate directory structure of my own on my C drive. C:/downloaded/Cygwin. That's, you can do, put it wherever you want, basically. But I would say maybe think about not putting it in a Windows specific directory like program files. For the most part, though, I'm using the default settings here in the setup utility. You do have to pick a download site, and I don't know the difference between these sites. I was just randomly scrolling down this list, sort of bewildered, and I spotted one, which I think I missed now. Maybe it's gone. No, I'm just overlooking. Oh, here it is. It just had Sonic in the name, and I thought, well, maybe that's fast. So I just chose that one arbitrarily. I chose the https://mirrors.sonic.net site. I did actually end up trying a couple others, and they were slower than this one. So I don't know. Maybe I got lucky. Now we've reached the heart of the Cygwin setup utility. This is where you configure what are called packages, and that's basically just functional sets of Linux programs and libraries and things that that will run or build or compile or whatever in Cygwin. And Cygwin will install a bunch of these by default, and you can see those under pending. So it's already picked out a bunch of stuff, which is fine. There are just a few more things that are needed to be able to compile Angband. So I'm going to grab those now. We need Clang, or you need some sort of compiler. Clang is a compiler, a Linux compiler, and that's the one I've been using. It was, I think, mentioned in the Angband manual, so that's the one I tried. It's the first one I tried, and it worked, so I'm sticking with it. So Clang, I've selected just the latest version from this drop-down list, so that will be installed when I move on from here. We need make. Make is a make utility. Not sure exactly what that means, but it basically takes a script that says, hey, this is what we're going to try to build, and it looks through it and does all the necessary things, including kicking off the compiler, as far as I can tell. So make is important. We're getting just regular make, whatever that means, latest version Cygwin has available. Also need this ncurses. Ncurses, or which was originally curses, is the terminal display library, as this says, and that's how you end up seeing in Angband the @ sign and other monster letters and numbers moving around in a dungeon. It's in charge of displaying those characters. Now, Cygwin comes with some parts of curses already installed, or it's going to install these automatically, but I found that I needed a couple more for Angband to build without protesting and giving me an error. And those are just this one, libncurses++w10 and libncurses-devel. So I've got those picked. Now, if you're going to use the source files from a tagged Angband release, that is one that they have announced publicly on the front of their website. For instance, the last one of those is 4.2.3 as I record this. Or, for instance, a nightly build. They kick out a new build of Angband nightly that you can download the graphical Windows version for, or source code for, or whatever. You could use one of those to you could download the source codes tagged specifically for one of those versions. If you just want to do that, those are the only 4 additional packages you need. Now, if you do want to just grab all the latest versions from the Angband code repository on github.com, then you'll need 4 more packages because there's an additional step to do. So I'm going to just be grabbing all the latest Angband source files. So I'm going to get those 4 additional packages right now. One is automake. Get that. One is autoconf. There we go. Another is M4. That's the one. And another is libtool. I'm actually a little not 100% sure we need libtool, but I haven't actually tried this without it, so I'm just going to take it. It was in a list of packages I found somewhere that was needed for something like this. Oh, it was needed for part of the build that these use, so a tool in the build that Angband uses. So anyway, I'm just going with that. So that should be everything completely now. even if we do that additional step of for the entire file source. So here's the pending stuff. It has Cygwin's default installations and the additional 8 things now that I have specified, if I've done it right. So there we go. Now hit next, and it will pull these down once I hit next again. I guess this is another way to confirm or review. Now, as I said, this seems to take about 1.2 gigabytes for all of these steps. Cygwin stores temporary files for the setup utility in a folder under the download site's name in your downloads directory. So I've got this funkily named folder that's kind of the URL of the download site. And you can, as far as I can tell, and I believe I read, once setup is completed, you can just delete this temporary folder. It'll have, last time I did this build, it ended up with about 169 megabytes of temporary files in there. You can just delete that. It can make running Cygwin setup faster if you run it again and are uninstalling or adding to or something those same packages that you installed previously. But even if you delete the folder entirely, it'll just pull stuff down again. So it's fine doing removing that folder if you want to. And it's done. So I'll let it create an icon on the desktop, which is over here. So Cygwin should be installed. Now we need Angband source files. There are the two choices here. You can get everything, or you can get a specific tagged release. I'm just going to get everything. If you want a tagged release, you can do that from the Angband GitHub site, github.com/angband/releases, and you'll see the list of the latest releases there. And what you're looking for is under a drop-down called assets for each release. There will be a file that ends in tar.gz, and that is the source code. That's what you want. There's also, I think, a shortcut link that is actually called source code, and that will get you the source code. Another way to download, so that's how you get a specific release. What I'm going to do is get just the full source files that are in the code repository there on GitHub. And for that, you can punch in a URL that will just magically get it for you as a compressed .tar.gz archive file. And that address is https://api.github.com/repos, /angband/tarball. If you want it as a zip file, there's another thing you can do, and actually you can do this on the website itself. There will be, if you go to the Angband/Angband code repository on GitHub, you'll see a big green button labeled code, and if you click that, it'll give you a drop-down menu with an option that says download zip, and you can just get this file that way, but it'll always be the same URL, github.com/angband/archive/refs/heads/master.zip. So that's the zip version. I'm going to use the tarball version just for a couple sort of minor reasons. One is that when you do this, the download you get has the number of the latest build, the latest Angband build in the file name, which just sort of makes it easier to date. Like if you have a folder full of these things in your downloads folder or whatever, it makes it easier to recognize which one came from about what time. It's not that actual build, but that's just showing you the latest build number that has been used. What's the other reason I'm using the tarball? I can't exactly remember. Now the Windows source code, or the Windows source code, the Angband source code is about, well, you see here, 24 megabytes. I'm using a utility called 7-zip to open tarballs. If you don't want to mess with these sort of more exotic forms of compressed archive files, you might just want to go with the master.zip file because that will open in Windows. Windows can handle zip files these days, but I like 7-zip. I'm just using that for the tarball. Click this thing open. I think that's a gzip, and you get into a tar file. Anyway, we're in here. So I've gone down to the actual source file. So I'm not going to extract these outer folders, right? I'm just skipping past these things, which are probably not even folders actually. They're just represented that way in 7-zip. So I'm grabbing all the files, and I'm going to put them in a new folder I'm going to make. Here's the Cygwin folder where I installed Cygwin. I'm just going to make a folder in here called Angband. You can put this wherever you want, but my my step-by-step will assume that we're actually working with a folder we've made called Angband in the directory where we installed Cygwin, so bear that in mind. I failed my drag and drop. Here we go. All right. They are extracted and dropped into my brand new Angband folder. This is the Angband source code. Now you'll notice that there is no .exe file in here for Angband. There's no angband.exe. That's what we're going to make. Also, just to be sure, you want to be sure that you've extracted the source for Angband right in here if you're following my specific directions. For instance, right inside Cygwin, we've got just one folder called Angband, and in that folder, for instance, there is the Angband readme.md. You don't want to have additional layers of directories there, or else my specific instructions will not work out correctly. Okay, it's time to run Cygwin. Cygwin is not a Linux emulator. It is a Linux functionality thing. It can't run Linux programs. It can only run things that you have compiled in Cygwin. So that's important to note. Don't go thinking you're actually running Linux here. This is just sort of a Linux functionality utility. It's really cool though. Okay, so it's just this cute little terminal window. You have to type stuff. I'm going to change to the Angband directory from the root. Oh no, what have I done? I've altered my file. I've typed in random characters. Okay. Let me get control of my typing. Oh no. There we go. This is how scrubby I am of a compiler. All right, so CD, that's actually wrong as well. Need this slash in front. CD Angband. This is from the Cygwin home directory, sort of. That's actually nebulous to me, but cd Angband, cd/Angband works. Here we are. Now we can start running the build tools. Because I downloaded the full source files and not a tagged release, I need to do this additional step. If you downloaded a tagged release, like the code specific to 4.2.3 or specific to a nightly build, you don't need to do this step because you've already got an autogen file. But since I pulled down just all the files, that doesn't come with a build autogen thing for whatever reason, or with a configure script, or I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't come with something I need. So, but you can generate it by typing in this /autogen.sh. This goes pretty fast. There's that M4 dependency thing that we downloaded in autoconf, for instance. So that's done. Next thing you do, and this is for everybody, even if you are working with source code from a tagged Angband build. And by the way, this is the Angband source code in here. So if you wanted to go hack the Angband source code and .c files and all that kind of stuff, you could do that. I don't know how to program, so I am not going to try that. So this next step, which is one everybody does, is to run /configure -- with no install. And these commands come straight out of the Angband compiling manual. This is a slightly longer process. And it checks through a bunch of stuff. It's at this point, if you didn't have all of those packages that that I pulled down in the Cygwin setup, it would complain. You see, also there's a note there about curses. Cygwin does not seem to have curses version 5 or ncurses version 5. It only has version 6. The Angband build script or whatever the heck it is seems to be looking for version 5, but it doesn't really seem to matter, and I'll go into that more because there's going to be waiting time after this next step. Nevertheless, those were just warnings, not errors, and Cygwin has completed the configure step for us. You see that we've got a front end for Angband ready to go. That's the curses front end. That's the ASCII displaying front end. Despite those wide character warnings. These are not Windows. We know what Windows is. We're not making a Windows binary. X11, SDL2, and SDL are the graphical front ends that are available under Linux. I haven't gone and installed the libraries needed for those. I did do some trial and error under another installation of Cygwin, and I was able to get those compiling, but I couldn't get them running. They seem to take additional configuration for Cygwin to be able to handle those graphics modes or whatever, and that was all complicated. And I don't actually like the graphical version. If you want to play the Windows graphical version anyway, you can just download the native Windows graphical version that's released with every nightly release of Angband or every regular public release of Angband. They all come with a graphical Windows version, which is, I think, more or less the same thing as these X11 and STL things. What I wanted was the ASCII console version, and that's curses, and that's ready to go. And like I said, there hasn't been a native Windows curses version released for Angband since 2008. We're not making a native Windows version. This is only going to run under Cygwin, but it'll still run under Cygwin in Windows, so close enough for me. All right, so finally, it's just time to make this sucker, because it's ready to roll, no errors, and you just type make. This takes a bit. So while that's running, I'm going to go to options. I have a feeling there was some other thing I was talking about as well that I said I would talk about when there was more time and not. Oh, the curses wide support. There will be more comments about the curses wide support warnings while this is compiling. But here's the one that came up during configure. And you can see it searching for ncurses W5. And I don't have ncurses W5. I only have ncurses W6. That's the only one Cygwin seems to provide. So wide support is for programs needing more than 255 characters, more than 8 bits. And for instance, Unicode is a character set that has more than 255 characters. But Angband does not seem to use those extended characters. It pretty much just sticks to ones and numbers and letters. So I don't think that matters for Angband. You see here's a build warning about it and a second one. Dash W character. That's I think the same wide character support stuff. But they're just warnings, and I don't think it actually matters for this thing we're making. As far as I know, which is not very far. So this little green and black icon in the upper left of the window gives us an options subwindow. And here's where you can tweak stuff to make this terminal window pretty. There's actually one thing that is sort of necessary. I mean, you can still run without it, is the type. So under terminal, we've got type. It's set to xterm. Xterm only handles 8 colors. Angband uses a little more than that. Angband actually uses in console mode something like the 28 or 32 or anyway something. So I'm switching it to a 256 color terminal type. So the colors will come out looking like they're supposed to, looking like you would see them playing on angband.live through your web browser. If you stick with terminal, it still runs, but it's only 8 colors. So like the roofs of houses in town will be dark blue instead of the sort of light cyan they look like on Angband Live. So that's really the only sort of actual thing to set here as far as I can tell. There are 2 other things I like to do. I just like a bigger font, and I like a different cursor. The line cursor is kind of this skinny vertical thing that I find a little hard to see when I'm targeting, for instance, looking at monsters or whatever in the dungeon. So I set it to block, the big rectangular block, and I turn off blinking because I don't like the blinking. And the other thing is text. You can change the font. I find Lucida Console is a fine font. These are both Microsoft fonts. I kind of prefer the consoleless font. This is what Microsoft defaults to in their terminal windows in Windows 10. And it's pretty good looking, I think. And I like a big font, so I'm picking size 20. This will cause some additional things to do with the window before actually starting Angband. All right, so these other things, you can do things with keys, with mouse buttons. For instance, if you have a middle mouse button, you might not want to be pasting things into Angband accidentally, so you could set that to nothing. I don't actually have a middle mouse button functionality on my touchpad for my laptop here, so that doesn't actually matter for me. This other stuff I just have not found a need to tweak. Columns and rows you could play with. That'll change the displayed number of columns and rows in the terminal window. That can have some unpredictable effects for Angband, I think. So I'm just leaving those default. So, and then I'm clicking save. So basically all we've changed is the only one that matters is the terminal type. And then I tweaked for myself the cursor and the font. And I'm hitting save. Well, and I hit a mouse button, middle mouse button thing, but who cares? Okay, click save. So here's my bigger 20-point font. Now we've got this gigantic window, and I am going to exit the window because it seems like to get that terminal type switching to the 256 colors, you have to shut this terminal window down. Make has completed, and it's given me the cursor back, so I'm going to exit by typing exit. Okay, and then I run it again. Because I picked such a large font size, and I'm going to want to run some subwindows in this terminal console version of Angband, I'm going to need to set it to full screen so it won't run out of room in the display and sort of mess up the subwindow display. So you can do that by hitting Alt-Enter to set to toggle Cygwin to full screen. And you can hit it again to toggle it back to windowed, for instance. My resolution here is 1080p, so you'll have different sizes relative if you're running a different resolution. So if you just want to run the game without any subwindow panels, you can just do /Angband/source. That's the subfolder inside the Angband folder that I made. And then Angband, this is the executable that was just compiled. You don't have to do the .exe at the end. I don't even know if that would work with that. I've never tried it. So just do that. That's from the manual, I believe. Anyway, /Angband, or the /source/Angband, I think is from the manual. So /Angband/source/Angband. That's if you just want to run it straight up Angband. And I guess I can show what that looks like. So here goes. There we are. Notice the 4.2.3 number under the big red title, Angband. That is that's a build number. That's the last released Angband build. This is actually running all the latest source code, and the latest source code is up to nightly builds of, I think it just shot up. I think it's at 170 or something now. So, like the latest nightly build, in fact, said under the tarball we downloaded, it had it in there. 4.2.3-171 is the latest tagged release number that's been given in the code repository. So, but since for whatever reason the full download of files does not have that latest nightly build number information, it just has the latest full release version number. So just 4.2.3, but it is the latest code. If you did build from a tagged release, like a nightly build 4.2.3-171, it would have that full 4.2.3-171, and then the gobbledygook after that I think GitHub just assigned. But yeah, so anyway, Angband, and it ran. Just don't give me, I don't want to play Mock. That's an interesting random name. Sure. And here I am in town with my little @ sign. You can set settings and so forth. I use the VI key, so there I am. But this is without the subwindow display, and you're just running a single Angband window display, no additional information panels. I'm going to get out of here and show the subwindow setup. So I'm going to hit Control-X, saving game, and we're back to the Cygwin command line. So for subwindows, you need some additional options when you run from this command line. And you can see the options for the angband.exe by putting a dash question mark after it. Or I think if you just screw things up, it'll say, no, that didn't work. Here's the options. But anyway, the actual way to do it is dash question mark. There are various options you can use. I haven't tried messing with these. The one that I'm concerned about for subwindows is -M. And then specifying the graphics mode, which is the curses graphics mode, that's GCU. And then the number of terminals, those are the subwindows. Well, the subwindows and the main window. So I'm going to do hitting up arrow to pull back my command. I'm going to do -mgcu. And now this is a tip I got from Backwards Eric on the Angband forum. I'm running sub options for an option. So to do that, you need to do 2 dashes in between the option and its sub options. So -mgcu is the option, dash to tell it, here comes a sub option, -n, as it says up here, for number of terminals, and then a digit from 1 to 6. Well, from 2 to 6, I suppose. I want 4 because I want 3 sub-windows, and then, of course, you need the main window as well, so that's 3 plus 1 is 4. And remember, I need to full screen this, or else the sub-windows will get sort of mangled, probably just due to my large font size. There we are back in Angband, and it's shifted over to the left now to allow room for some of these sub-windows. So that's one sub-window on the lower left is currently displaying the inventory. A sub-window on the lower right is displaying the monster list. And a sub-window in the upper right is showing the message record. As you can see here, it's building things up there. So if you want to change those around, of course, you can hit =sign to go into Angband's options. You can go to subwindow setup, which is W. You can just hit the W key. And you change these check marks. You can toggle them with the T button. So I don't want messages in term 1. That's where I want monster recall and object recall. And you can actually stack those two so that if you examine an object, it'll show up there. But most of the time, it'll default to showing monster details there. And then I want messages where it's currently showing inventory. Turn inventory off, put messages on. And the monster list is actually right where I want it. So escape out. And there they are. There's my recall notes. And for instance, if I target this other guy over here, his notes are up there. If I take a look at something in my inventory, the notes appear there as well. And what else? Oh, yeah, so in options, again, that's =sign. You can save your sub-window setup. This was a tip from Angband maintainer Nick on the forum. He told me that you can go to S. So you can just hit S, or you can go down here and enter for save sub-window setup to pref file. And then you type in user.prf. Oh no, I screwed up, and backspace doesn't seem to work, so I have to start over. .prf, and it will save this. And user.prf, I guess, is sort of a default for all characters you make now. So every character I make, even under a different name, should now be using that sub-window setup. Also, there are birth options, and I forgot those, but you can save those as well if you do those actually during character generation. For instance, let's just kill this current character with Shift Q. Yep. @ All right. New game. Yes, and of course, these are just the regular things you're used to doing in Angband. Equal sign for birth options. I like random artifacts, for instance, even though I never actually live long enough to get artifacts. I dare to dream. So that's set there, and you notice at the bottom it says S to save. So I hit S, and it will save this configuration file, so I don't have to redo this for every character. Likewise, if you go back into options with equals, under user interface options, there's S to save at the bottom, noted there again. So I can finish setting my options here, which I think I just am gonna, well, I want to turn off mouse clicks because actually mouse support is working here. If I click, it'll move over here. It's not moving completely because it stops when there are monsters in the way or in the display. But you see now I'm just moving around by clicking my mouse cursor that I'm not recording. But those are just mouse clicks, or touchpad clicks actually. But I don't want it doing that because I don't want to click accidentally. So in user options, you can turn that off by setting W here to no. And that's about all I run. So then I click S to save, and that won't have to be redone in the future. And that's about all I'm going to mess with there. So, hello, get me a, there we go. So that's Angband, freshly compiled from the latest source files and running in Windows through Cygwin. Again, you can't just run this this angband.exe file by double clicking it in Windows or anything. You run Cygwin and then you run Angband from the Cygwin command line. So Control X to get out. Back to the Cygwin command line. Alt Enter to toggle back to Windows or windowed mode. And I was going to show you where it saves some of these files. So back to the Cygwin folder. Because the game actually stores some of these outside of the game folder. You go to Cygwin, or where you installed Cygwin, there's a home folder. In home, there's a folder with my name, and which I think is just, well, it's the name of your Windows username, I guess. And then .angband, uppercase Angband, and here are some of those press. For instance, here's that user.prf that I saved out. Here are the birth options that I saved out, the interface options I saved out. So that stuff's in there. And then the actual character save file, though, back out of here, is in the Angband folder. In the game folder, there's a folder called lib. In there, there's a folder called save. And there is my, again, I think it's just my user handle from Windows or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's the save file, I think, as far as I know. So that's Angband, and we can go and look at this angband.exe that compiled. I can double click it to show you what happens in Windows. Windows doesn't like that because Windows doesn't know how to find these DLLs that Cygwin uses. Windows doesn't have that information on its own. So it's protesting. It can't find the Cygwin's curses wide character support thing. It's confused. So you don't run that through Windows. You run it through Cygwin. If you want the subwindows, you do those additional command lines. If you don't need those, you just do without the command options, rather. And that's how it works. So that's it. If you have followed these directions, hopefully you now have Angband console version up to date with the latest Angband source code running in Windows through Cygwin. And I don't think I have anything to add except thanks to Backwards Eric and Nick, Angband developers, who helped me out with a couple crucial steps in configuring that, although they didn't know at the time perhaps that this is what I was going to end up doing, and I don't know if I knew at the time exactly for at least the first part of it. But that's it. I'm going to have these directions in the video description or under the video, so you can follow those if you don't want to listen to my rattling on about it. And this is the first time I've done any sort of Linux-like operations or code compiling, so I was actually kind of amazed this worked. If it doesn't work for you, I don't know if I'll be able to help, because what I've just shown you is pretty much all I know. Pretty much all I know about it. I think, I can just thank the fairly robust instructions, and I would encourage you to go look at those, the compiling instructions in the Angband manual. And then Cygwin itself seems to be fairly robust and somewhat foolproof. The setup program is quite handy, even if it can take a little clicking around and typing in package names. But aside from that, it went pretty smoothly. Like I think I mentioned, I couldn't get some of the fancier, when I was just experimenting, I couldn't get the graphical modes for Angband. I could get them to compile in an earlier compile I made when I had additional packages for those graphical things installed. But running them in Cygwin seemed to require additional setup for Cygwin to be happy, and that was, I don't know, it was complicated, and there were no obvious, clear solutions that I found by quick Googling, so I just decided to skip it, because actually all I wanted was the ASCII console version, and that's what I, seemingly miraculously to me, managed to come up with. So thanks for watching this, and well, good night.